Okay, so imagine this. I'm lying on my couch, exhausted, and my phone buzzes. It's a video from my aunt, which is weird because she never sends me anything personal. I open it, and, well, it's my family. At a fancy dinner I paid for, laughing at me. Like, really laughing. I mean, not just joking around, but mocking me. And here's the thing. This isn't just embarrassing. It's betrayal. Full-on, gut punch betrayal. And somehow, I realize my entire life has been part of their little game. I was sprawled across my sofa, wrapped in this threadbare blanket that had seen better days, trying not to think about the migraine pounding behind my eyes. Every pulse of light felt like a hammer, every sound a jackhammer. My brain was fried from 3 months of 80-hour weeks, scrambling to close a chaotic merger at work. Honestly, I felt small, tiny, invisible, even in my own apartment. The only sound was the fridge humming, mocking my stillness. Then, my phone buzzed, just a little vibration against the coffee table, but it felt like a thunderclap against my skull. I groaned and reached for it, expecting another work email I had to ignore. But nope, not work. WhatsApp from Brenda. And Brenda. Weird, right? She never sent me videos, ever. Usually, her messages were these super practical things. Hazel, the heating bill is high. Or, Mark needs new tires. Totally transactional. I stared at the screen. Thumb hovering. Part of me wanted to ignore it, maybe toss it in the trash without watching. Another part, well, curiosity killed the cat. Right. I tapped play. The video buffered, then came alive, and instantly, my stomach did this weird flip. The dining room, my family, the table, it was groaning under lobster platters, champagne bottles, a cake that probably cost more than my rent. And then I realized this was the feast I had funded. My hands shook. I fumbled the phone slightly, trying to hold it steady. Mark, with his flushed, triumphant grin, raised a glass, and then Brenda, wearing the silk blouse I bought her for her birthday, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. They were toasting to me, or rather, my gullibility. My mind went blank for a second. I couldn't breathe properly. Nausea hit me. This sharp, twisting feeling in my gut. It wasn't just money, it was trust. It was love. It was all these years of effort being twisted into a joke. And then, the camera panned slowly, oh God, to my mother, sitting there quietly, sipping wine, not saying a word, not defending me, not even acknowledging it. My chest tightened. The migraine seemed to vanish, replaced by this hollow, icy feeling. Every laugh, every raised glass, every wink at the camera, it was like a blade carving into me. I just lay there, phone trembling in hand, realizing that for them, I wasn't a daughter. Not really. I was an ATM, a convenient tool for their comfort and luxury. And in that moment, I didn't just feel betrayed, I felt invisible, used, and yes, utterly, completely alone. My apartment, my life, everything I'd sacrificed, suddenly felt like a cruel stage set for their amusement. The video, oh, it was brutal. The camera wobbled, shaky and vertical, like someone was too giddy to hold it steady. And there they were, Mark, red-faced, waving a lobster claw in one hand and a crystal flute in the other, grinning like he owned the world. "Turn it around, Mom," he crowed, pointing at the camera, and Brenda corrected him. her voice shrill, almost triumphant. "To the ATM," she said. And I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. My mother, Gabriella, just sat there, perfectly still. Glass of wine in hand, her eyes calm, almost serene. No defense, no outcry. She just nodded along, smiled thinly, and let them parade me across that table. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I could hear their laughter echoing, every chime of silverware, every bubble in the champagne, each one pounding like a drum in my chest. And here I was, thinking I was helping, buying a new boiler, covering bills, paying tuition, everything I could to make their lives easier. And this was the reward mockery, open, brazen mockery. Brenda waving her fork like a scepter, Mark practically performing for the camera, and my mother the one person I thought would protect me just sipping her wine, silent. It was like watching my love, my care, and every sleepless night be spat back at me in their laughter. I felt anger flare, sharp and immediate, but it was tangled with this hollowness, the kind that sinks to the very pit of your stomach. I could feel the years of sacrifice money, time, emotional labor being distilled into a single, cruel truth. I was being used, not appreciated, not even seen, just a means to their comfort. I remembered the countless weekends spent fixing the house, paying for repairs, making sure the bills cleared on time, the Christmas gifts, the random texts saying, "Mark needs this, Brenda needs that." All of it. And for what? So they could toast to my gullibility, sit back with their lobster and champagne, and laugh at me while my own mother just watched. The absurdity of it made my head spin. Part of me wanted to look away, close the phone, pretend it wasn't happening. But I couldn't. I had to witness it. Every smirk, every glance to the camera, every exaggerated sigh of indulgence etched itself into my memory. And the way they spoke about me. Oh God. Brenda calling me a pathetic spinster, a gullible doormat. Mark sneering that I thought I was the head of the family because I signed the checks. Every word felt like a knife. My heart pounded, nausea twisting through me again, a mix of disbelief and rage. And then my mother, just smiling and agreeing with them, calling me beautiful but silent in the face of their cruelty. That quiet complicity, that absence of defense, it hurt worse than any words. I was sitting there, trembling, heart hammering, staring at my family, literally feasting on my generosity, turning my care into entertainment for their amusement. And it hit me like a tidal wave, all those sacrifices, all the patience, all the nights working until my eyes blurred. They had never seen me as a person. I was a utility, a resource, a never-ending checkbook. I felt used, diminished, and, well, honestly, hollow. The laughter, the clinking of glasses, the sparkle of the candlelight on their faces. It was all a spotlight on my own naivety. I couldn't stop the tears, though they didn't come. I just sat there, frozen, letting the video imprint itself in my mind. Every frame, every second, every laugh. I needed to remember it, to never forget the way they had treated me. I needed to remember what it felt like to be invisible in my own family, to be reduced to nothing more than a source of money and validation for people who had no intention of caring for me. I sank into my chair, wrapping my arms around myself as the migraine from earlier had faded, leaving behind a dull emptiness that felt worse. My apartment was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator, but my mind was buzzing, scanning every detail I could remember from the video. I opened my bank account on the laptop, fingers hovering for a moment before I clicked through the transactions. At first, I saw the usual payments: mortgage, utilities, groceries, medical transfers for my mother. Nothing out of place, or so I thought. Then I dug deeper, opening the card statements I had issued to Brenda for emergencies. And that's when it hit me. Lobster Shack, $600. Liquor store, $850. Bakery, $300. I felt my stomach drop in a wave of nausea that wasn't about the migraine. These were indulgences, extravagant and unnecessary. And suddenly, all the supposed emergencies flashed in my mind: the boiler repair, Mark's tuition, every tearful plea from Brenda. All lies. I swallowed hard, mind racing. I pulled up the invoice Brenda had sent me last week. Smithson and Sons Heating, $4,000. The boiler had exploded, she said, but the PDF looked wrong. The logo was blurry. The font was plain Times New Roman, and there was no tax ID at the bottom. I frowned, clicking open a new tab to search the company online. Nothing. No website, no reviews, no business registration. My pulse quickened. I searched the address listed on the invoice: a vacant lot behind a strip mall. 3 towns over. I felt a cold fury settle into my chest. This wasn't just negligence or thoughtless spending. This was fraud. Brenda had created this fake emergency to siphon money from me, probably on the very laptop I had bought her, and I had sent it, trusting her. I gripped the edge of my desk. My heart pounded, and I felt a strange clarity settling over me, sharper than any rage I'd ever known. I picked up my phone and dialed my mother's pharmacy. "Hi, this is Hazel, Gabriella's daughter. I'm reviewing her medical expenses for tax purposes. Could you tell me the monthly out-of-pocket costs for her prescriptions this year?" There was typing on the other end. Then the pharmacist spoke slowly, as if checking twice. "Everything has been fully covered. Her copay has been 0 for the last 11 months. 0. My throat tightened, and a wave of disbelief washed over me. For nearly a year, the money I had been sending for my mother's care, the money I thought was essential for her survival, had been pocketed, misdirected, and spent on luxury items and extravagant meals. I felt both hollow and burning with fury. But then, almost instantly, the shock transformed into something else: a cold, methodical clarity. I wasn't just angry. I was focused. I could see the pattern now, the manipulation that had run through our family for years. Every emergency, every guilt-laden message from Brenda, every demand for cash had been a tool to keep me in line. Mark, the so-called golden child, had played his part, laughing, performing, indulging. And my mother, silent in the video, had been manipulated too, made complicit in this cycle by Brenda's relentless control. I leaned back and exhaled, letting the anger channel into strategy. This was no longer about hurt feelings or betrayal. It was about dismantling a corrupt system. I opened a blank spreadsheet and began cataloging everything's transactions, fake invoices, pharmacy records, every dollar diverted, every lie, every indulgence, all neat, ordered, impossible to ignore. The migraine was gone, replaced by a razor-sharp focus. I could see it all like a database filled with corrupted entries. Brenda had underestimated me, thought her thefts and her digital prank would trap me in my old role. The obedient daughter, the ATM. She hadn't accounted for my skills, my ability to audit, to investigate, to uncover every redundancy and inefficiency. I wasn't just a passive participant anymore. I was the senior architect, the one capable of identifying the flaws, the vulnerabilities, and the patterns. I leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the screen, letting each revelation settle in. The system was corrupt, and now I had the blueprint to dismantle it. For the first time in years, I felt in control. Every lie Brenda had told, every misuse of funds, every manipulation of my mother's trust, they were all documented, all exposed. I wasn't crying anymore. I wasn't trembling with despair. I was methodical, calculating, ready to take action. Brenda's arrogance, the video, the laughter, it had all backfired. The evidence was mine. I could see it, hold it, use it, and in that moment, the hollow pit in my chest transformed into a sharp, icy determination. This wasn't personal anymore. It was strategic, and I was ready. I sat there for a long moment, just staring at the screen, letting everything settle. Then I started systematically taking control. First, the utility accounts: electricity, gas, water. I navigated to the stored payment methods and deleted my credit card from every single portal. Every click felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Next, the credit cards I had given Brenda. I pulled up the transaction history, the roadmap of indulgence laid bare in front of me. Boutique pet store, salon, cash withdrawals at a casino. I called the bank, calm but firm. I need to report a supplementary card lost or stolen. Cancel it immediately. Remove the user entirely. Flag for any unauthorized access. The words tasted like cold wine, sweet and righteous. I didn't hesitate. This was no longer a battle of emotions. This was strategic. Every safeguard I had ignored before, every oversight that had let Brenda take advantage, it was all being corrected now. Then came the notifications, the texts, the calls. Brenda first, panicked, frantic. Hazel, the cards declined. What is going on? Call me. Mark, just as shocked, asking for transfers, deadlines, trying to guilt me, charm me, manipulate me into the old pattern. I didn't answer right away. I sipped my coffee, calm, almost bored. Their shock, their disbelief, it was almost satisfying. I could hear the scrambling through the phone lines, the messages piling up, and I stayed focused. This wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. It was about finally asserting the boundaries I should have set years ago. Each missed call, each unanswered text, each declined card, they were all reminders of the control I had regained. I felt something strange, almost liberating. The panic on the other end, the entitlement crashing into a wall they couldn't see, it was empowering. Yes, but also clarifying. I wasn't the same Hazel who would apologize for making them uncomfortable or rush to cover their whims. I was calculating, methodical, precise. I thought through the next steps, even as they shouted into the void, trying to pull me back into their drama. I imagined the look on Brenda's face, that mixture of disbelief and rage, and it reinforced my resolve. Every action I took was measured, deliberate. I reviewed the spreadsheets again, tracing every dollar, every indulgence, every manipulation. I could see the pattern of their greed, the system of control Brenda had built over me and my mother. And now I was dismantling it, piece by piece, starting with the financial chokehold. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to cry. My calm, collected approach was already the message the game was over. For the first time in years, I felt empowered, grounded, in control. My pulse had slowed. My mind was sharp. The world that had felt chaotic, unjust, and suffocating just a few hours ago was now a map I could navigate. And I knew, deep down, the next move was coming. The confrontation would follow, but right now, right here, I was steady. I had removed their access, frozen their tools, and reclaimed my power. It was a quiet, calculated victory, and for the first time, I felt unshakable. To really understand why the betrayal cut so deep, you have to know my family, the way it always was. My dad died when I was 7, and I thought it was just me and Mom against the world. But Gabriella, my mother, she wasn't the kind to take charge. She was fragile, delicate, the kind of person who needed someone stronger to orbit around. Enter Brenda, my aunt. She wasn't fragile. Brenda was a force of nature, loud, opinionated, hairspray and perfume, always at full volume, with a personality that filled every room. She swooped in, took us in after Dad died. And yes, she provided. But the cost was total control. Gabriella shrank, became a shadow of herself, agreeing with everything Brenda said, adopting her opinions, her grudges, her little cruelties. And me, I was expected to pick up the pieces, to enable the family, to finance the quiet stability that Brenda pretended was her doing. School scholarships, rent, utilities, bills, it was all mine. And Mark, my cousin, the golden child, just thrived. 3 years older than me, charming, slick, perpetually drifting through life without a plan, yet somehow excused for everything. I paid for his missteps, his hobbies, his whims, because Brenda said I should, because Mom couldn't stand up, and Brenda demanded obedience. And I did it. I paid, I worked, I sacrificed, thinking it was love, thinking it was what family meant. But it was never about love. Was it? It was always about control. Any act of generosity on my part was twisted into obligation, a way to keep me in line. When I got my scholarship to university, Brenda accused me of abandoning the family. My first 6-figure job. Apparently, I was getting above my raising. But the moment the paycheck cleared, the dynamic shifted. Brenda suddenly had health issues preventing her from working. Mark suddenly needed help finding himself. And my mother, well, she was still too fragile to resist. Every penny I sent, every favor I did, it was rationalized as helping them, freeing them, giving my mother comfort. I convinced myself I was the savior, and in the back of my mind, I clung to the hope that maybe one day they'd see me, respect me, treat me like a person, not just a wallet or a human ATM. But looking back now, I see how meticulously the pattern was set. I was conditioned to enable, to sacrifice, to forgive, and to stay silent. Brenda thrived on that. Mark benefited. And Mom, well, she adapted, quiet, compliant, surviving in the orbit of Brenda's hurricane. It's why, when the video came through, showing them laughing at me while sipping the champagne I paid for, it wasn't just money being taken. It was the culmination of a lifetime of manipulation, control, and unacknowledged sacrifice. I realized then that I had been living inside a system built to exploit me, and understanding that really seeing it was the first step toward taking it apart. Saturday arrived with this relentless, glaring sunshine that felt like it was spotlighting everything. Perfect weather for a garden party, sure, but also perfect for what I was about to do. I pulled up in my 10-year-old sedan, parked right in front of the driveway, blocking a shiny Mercedes like a silent announcement the party had a new guest. And I was here on my terms. In the passenger seat, a thick manila envelope rested, heavy with the weight of months of deceit eviction notices, bank statements, the fake Smithson and Sons invoice, pharmacy records. This wasn't just paperwork. It was the blueprint for exposure, for justice, for reclaiming control. I took a deep breath, bracing myself, and stepped out. Gravel crunched under my heels as I walked up the driveway, and I felt the eyes on me immediately. Neighbors, party guests, strangers even, turning to watch a woman approach who didn't belong in their curated, expensive scene. I ignored them. I focused on the gate, which was open, and the soft clink of glasses, the murmurs of polite conversation, the faint strains of jazz. Brenda was in the center of it all, resplendent in her floral dress and wide-brimmed hat, performing as though the world were her stage. Mark, busy at the bar, wiped his hands on a towel, trying to look casual but failing. And my mother Gabriella sat on a bench near the roses, small, anxious, a glass of water trembling in her hand. I could see the tension already mounting. Brenda saw me first. Her smile froze, glass tilting slightly. "Hazel," she called, her voice shrill but forced, friendly, like a veneer cracking. What a surprise we didn't think you could take a break from your computer. I walked straight past the shocked whispers of the guests, ignoring them, and stopped 3 feet in front of her. "We have some business to discuss," I said, my voice clear. Projecting across the lawn, Brenda laughed, a nervous, jagged sound. "Business now? Don't be silly, darling. Grab a drink. We're celebrating the community." I tilted my head slightly. "Actually," I said, slow and deliberate, "I'm here to clarify a few things about the community. Specifically, who's paying for it." Mark hustled over, wiping his hands nervously. "Hazel, don't start drama. Not today. Just leave. Okay, we'll talk later." I shook my head. "No, we'll talk now." I reached for the manila envelope, letting the weight of it feel grounding. The first document was the fake Smithson and Sons invoice. I turned toward Mrs. Higgins, Brenda's best friend, the one who had recommended the heating company. "Mrs. Higgins," I said, keeping my tone calm, deliberate. "You recommended a heating guy to Brenda last week, didn't you?" She blinked, startled, and nodded. "Yes, Mr. Henderson. He's excellent." "Right." I held up the invoice. "Well, Brenda told me the boiler exploded and sent this bill for $4,000 from Smithson and Sons." A ripple went through the crowd. A subtle gasp. "Funny thing is, Mrs. Higgins, Smithson and Sons is a vacant lot behind a Taco Bell." Brenda shrieked, face turning crimson, hands fluttering. "Hazel, how dare you? This is a private family business. You're embarrassing your mother." She waved her arms. Desperate, I ignored the theatrics and turned to my mother. Gabriella had stood, hands over her mouth. I handed her the pharmacy printout. "Look at it," I said. Her eyes scanned the columns, stopping at the copay. Her lips parted. "0, she whispered. My chest tightened. I let a beat hang, watching as understanding dawned on her face. I continued, calm, precise. "For 12 months, I've been sending Brenda $400 a month for medicine that was fully covered. She told you I was reluctant, that I was cheap. She spent it on lobster and handbags while you worried about being a burden. Brenda lunged forward, grabbing Mark's arm. She's lying, she's jealous. Gabriella, always jealous of us. I ignored her and addressed the guests. And the house. You think it belongs to Brenda, don't you? That she's the benevolent hostess. I pulled out the deed. This house belongs to me. I pay the mortgage, the taxes, the landscaping you're standing on, and Brenda. She pays nothing. She even charges me a management fee to live here. The silence was immediate, thick, suffocating. Jazz music seemed to falter, then fade. Brenda's face, a mixture of disbelief and furies, went slack. Mark's jaw dropped. The shift in power was palpable. I turned to Mark, handing him the eviction notices. You have 30 days to vacate. Locks will be changed on the 31st, credit cards canceled, bank accounts frozen. The free ride is over. His pale face mirrored his panic. You can't do this. We're family. I looked him dead in the eye. Family doesn't toast to their benefactor's loneliness. Mark, I saw the video. I saw you laughing. You called me a pathetic ATM. Well, this ATM is out of order. Brenda let out a theatrical, desperate wail, arms flailing. She turned to the neighbors, reaching out, trying to perform victimhood. But all eyes shifted to Gabriella. And then, with quiet, unwavering strength, my mother stood by me. Not Brenda, not Mark, Gabriella. She looked at the guests, at the expensive catering, then at me. No, she said, clear and resolute. Brenda's mouth fell open, the eviction notice fluttering in Mark's hand. The queen of the neighborhood, dethroned in her own backyard. I extended a hand to my mother. Come on, Mom, let's go home. And with that, the weight lifted, the control, the manipulation, the deceit exposed, dismantled, powerless. After the confrontation at the garden party, the fallout was immediate, but the real work began the next day. Brenda and Mark moved out quietly, though the damage they left behind was extensive. I walked through the house, empty and hollow, noting the missing curtains, the stripped light bulbs, the vanishing of every little thing they could sell or take with them. Even the toilet paper holders were gone. Yet, despite the chaos, the bones of the house were strong, steady, almost as if they were waiting for a new chapter. Standing in the dining room, the place of their cruel video, I realized it felt lighter somehow. The laughter, the mocking faces, they were gone, and the space felt almost free, stripped of its oppressive weight. I spent the day documenting everything, photographs, notes, making a careful record of what was left, what had been taken, and what I would need to address next. Then came a decision I had been circling for days. The house needed to go. Not because I wanted revenge, but because the memories were thick in the walls, lingering like smoke. Using the proceeds from the sale, I bought a smaller condo for my mother in a 55-plus community nearby, fully in her name, fully hers. I wanted her to have a home that belonged to her, a space where she could finally breathe without fear or manipulation. When she first walked through, she paused, hand on the counter, eyes wide. "It's so clean," she said quietly, almost in awe. "I like it that way." I smiled, warmth spreading through me. "Mom, you can stay as long as you want. Brenda and Mark aren't coming here. Ever." She nodded slowly, a quiet understanding settling over her. Over the following months, I watched her blossom. At first, she mourned the loss of her sister, the familiar chaos of Brenda's presence. But gradually, independence began to take hold. She started making friends at the community center, attending events, laughing without hesitation. A spark returned to her eyes, the kind I hadn't seen since my father passed away. Painting again, creating, laughing freely, it was as if a weight had lifted, a lifetime of burden finally easing. And me, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel for a long time: peace, control, freedom. The constant pressure of financial obligations, of manipulation, of silent expectations gone. Hazel was back. Hazel, the senior architect, the woman who could analyze a system, identify vulnerabilities, and dismantle corruption with precision, was living her life again, on her own terms. Every financial decision, every boundary I had set, every reclaiming of my resources was a small victory. But together, they added up to something enormous: autonomy. That evening, sitting with my mother on her balcony, the sky painted with sunset hues, she turned to me, eyes soft. "Hazel," she said, voice gentle. "Yes, Mom," I replied. "I never said thank you," she whispered. "Not just for the house, but for waking her up, for helping her reclaim her life, for standing up against the system that had trapped us for so long." I reached across the table, squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth and trust pass between us. "It's okay, Mom. We're here now." And for the first time in years, it felt true. The migraine was gone. The ATM was closed. The corrupt system of manipulation had been purged. Hazel was free. Mom was free. The house, the money, the control, all of it finally back in the right hands. We sat together, watching the sunset, the quiet comfort of stability wrapping around us, the burdens of the past finally lifting. It wasn't just about reclaiming money or property. It was about reclaiming life, dignity, and peace. And in that moment, I realized that after years of serving everyone else, I'd finally done something for me and for Mom. Our lives were finally ours, and it felt incredible. And that's where Hazel's story ends, at least for now. She reclaimed her life, her mother found independence, and the chaos of the past finally quieted. It's a reminder that sometimes taking control and standing up for yourself can change everything. If you found this story gripping, or even just a little satisfying, go ahead and like the video. And, well, subscribing means you won't miss the next story that's just as intense and revealing. Thanks for sticking around.